All week I was going last, and now I'm going first.
The gaming and metagaming podcast.
Gosh, dang it! All right, I'm ready.
All right, I don't have an intro with the music, so that's a problem. But you can add it.
Yeah, I got it up, man.
Okay. We'll make sure to add it. All right, so here we go, guys. Anyone want to post on Twitter real quick?
Let's do it
right now.
That's a good idea, dude.
Twitter.
I should stick a command on my little stream deck for Twitter.
Do a multi thing where you do does a Twitter, it delays for 5 minutes, then you start your like music, and it starts your.
I don't stream.
Oh, you don't stream?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I can blast Twitter like crazy.
there you go.
I could do a macro that does one tweet every 10 seconds and just fronts it.
We have to do different tweets because you can't do the same one.
Good, you should calm down, Cathalion over there. Dude tweets like ridiculous.
Nobody watches Italian, bro.
Yeah, really.
Man. Bro, man. All right, we got failure ready to go. Ready? Let me know when the tweet blast is out. While you're talking to me, reading all this shit Poop Chisel put in. Yeah.
Tweet went live.
Hey.
What the heck?
What?
Didn't go live. Give me a second.
You definitely tweeted. Ooh, brightness. Guys, I think I did. My God, I look real now.
You do. That's actually very nice. It's way better. Yeah, you just gotta get your light right.
No, it's my
Gotta get your
webcam
light
settings
right.
too.
Okay. Tune it down a little bit.
Hmm?
You tuned it down a little bit? The color? The warmth?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. You look like a normal person. You look like in real life now.
Like I actually have blood
crazy
flowing
ghost.
through my face.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, tweets live.
Cool. All right, let's do it. I'll do a countdown. Welcome to Metagame, the gaming and media podcast from Spawn Camp Council, the 6-man think tank that takes content to the highest tier of excellence. Tonight, we're giving you the hottest information on the latest games, so boot up, log in, and enjoy the show. This week, in the vein of Inception, Contra returns. Will it be premature? Ubisoft Game Pass. Gaming disorder is now an official disease. And Patrick Stewart returns to Star Trek. But where does number one fall in continuity? But we aren't talking about any of that crap tonight. Tonight, I'm your host, Adam 12. Your host. Or your host.
You heard?
You heard? You heard my host? Go. Need nameless or Hearst. All right. I'm your host, Adam Too Well, with our co-host, the missing Poop Shizzle, the absent Solid Scorpion Z, those fucks. We've got Sectator Gaming here with us live. We've got our DM with the most BMs, Mr. King Dawes.
Hey.
So how's everybody doing tonight? Let's just put that out of
Doing good. Doing real good.
It's feeling a little crowded in here, to be honest with you.
I know, right? I'm kind of digging the 3-man
Yeah,
podcast.
well, menage
I've done it
a
a few
trois.
times lately.
Yeah, man.
Hey, I'm seeing how you guys are looking. I like it.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
And one of us is only wearing a towel.
From the one was only wearing black socks. All right, Sectator Gaming.
Yeah.
I think that you have a wonderful story for us tonight. You've been following the esports. You've been all up in the Tfue, the irritating sort of legal litigation aspect of the whole gaming world. So tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, so kind of broke out last week a little bit. Tfue is suing FaZe Clan. So if you guys don't really follow esports, there's a significance behind that. Tfue only had like 15, 20, maybe 30 concurrent viewers when FaZe signed them. FaZe Banks, who's the CEO, actually sought him out and recruited him actively to go to FaZe.
Hold up, let me
Yeah.
The CEO's name's FaZe Banks.
No,
Thanks.
that's his stage name.
He named himself Banks because he's a money guy.
Tfue was a Destiny streamer. P.S.
Yep, he did Destiny, he did
Don't play
H1Z1, he did PUBG, and then he went to Fortnite. But he got basically actively recruited. Not going to go into all the details behind that, but he's been there for about 8 months. He signed a contract that has been leaked. It was not a very strong streamer-friendly content. Basically, 80-20 split towards FaZe. So pretty much several categories. 80% of what Tfue made went to FaZe. Probably a contract that he was excited to sign as a small streamer. Most people don't expect to blow up the way he did. Where he is now the number one. Him and Ninja go back and forth for the number one most subscribed Twitch channel. So obviously, when you're going from 50 active subscribers to 80,000 active subscribers, you're like, oh, I want some of that money back in my pocket. So he's suing FaZe. Essentially, I guess they've been negotiating the contract back and forth since October. FaZe offered him a contract saying that we'll take no splits, allegedly. And then he turned it down. He wants out completely. The contract did get leaked. FaZe did not actually offer him a contract with 0 splits. They wanted 20 to 30% of everything that he made. So that was a lie from the company. The CEO made a YouTube video where he was basically doing audio conference with a bunch of news people. He posted it, and he said they actually didn't offer him a contract with 0 splits until like 3 days before he officially sued them. So FaZe Banks, the CEO, and a bunch of other people basically got called out for lying. So it was a huge debacle, and the thing that people keep focusing on, the smart people, is in all the videos and the drama, they keep saying we've only collected $60,000, and I think that's the part that Tfue is nervous about, because they've collected. That doesn't mean that they're not coming for the rest of it.
That's trouble.
So he released a video. Tfue released a video indicating what's going on. Basically, hashtag release the effing contract was going live, was trending all over Twitter. They released the contract, wasn't what it lined up to be. So basically, the interesting part behind this is you have a guy who signed the worst contract that I can think of, and not only was the terms bad, it was 3 years. Like, he signed a 3-year contract with no outs. It actually ends up being a 42-month contract because he had a 6-month trial period, and then FaZe could elect to opt into the remaining 36 months, which they did. So you have a guy who's suing because he says this isn't lawful. He's getting the Labor Board of California involved, which, you guys, if you know anything about that, they're like one of the strictest for work conditions and codes. And he's going after them to basically get out of his contract. They want to keep him on because they would be stupid to let him go. But I don't think FaZe is going to be left standing at the end of this. If you guys don't know the history of FaZe, they're an esports organization that has won CSGO titles. They've won League of Legends titles. They've been active, Call of Duty, big Call of Duty. They've been active in that environment. And I don't think they're going to be left standing. And here's the reason why. There was new information leaked a couple days ago that they actually have a person on roster signed to a contract. I think his name is High Skies. He is 11 years old, and he is lying about his age actively, saying
Did you know this? How did I not know?
He is 13 years old, and there are text messages and stuff that have come out of basically FaZe strong-arming him and his parents into lying about how old he is. So the reason I said that it was very genius of the lawyer to keep that in the initial complaint was because he did say they have an 11-year-old on staff, and he's not going after the contract. He's going after their credibility and the fact that they can support the contract. So if he can pull their licensing from the Labor Board of California out from underneath him, all the contracts go up in smoke. This lawyer, backstory on the lawyer real quick, last 5 years he's been named on the top 100 of lawyers in America, and basically he's come out and said, like, we will win. I'm no doubt about it, we're gonna win this, and I don't think FaZe is gonna be left standing. So what do you guys think? Obviously a lot of drama there. Have you guys been following it? Like, what is your guys' opinion overall with the whole situation?
I've watched a couple videos on it. What it really boils down to is, it doesn't matter if you're a super tiny streamer or an 11-year-old or a huge streamer, hire a fucking lawyer before you start signing contracts. Like,
Yeah,
you need
absolutely.
to have someone who can read a contract and understand what's going on.
Don't
And
sign a 3-year
before you sign.
contract.
It doesn't even matter the term. Just hire a lawyer. In the
Yeah.
long run, doesn't like if you do blow up, it's going to cost you thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Idiots if you're signing contracts.
Another
without
thing is,
lawyer present.
I'm just bouncing off of what other streamers have said about this. I've kept up with a little bit. I mean, not to the point that you have. Always have a buyout,
Yes.
whatever it is. I mean, if it seems exorbitant to you as a tiny streamer, but they're giving you your break, 20 grand, 10 grand, you're like, there's no way in hell I'll ever make 10 grand.
Right.
It sounds like a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Ninja bought out
A
of
good
his.
deal for the person that's
Yep.
giving it to you, a good deal for you. It's like, if I ever get to that point, which I never will, of course, then I can at least buy it out. Well, this guy's bumped up to 80 grand. It's easy for him just to bump out. He's going
Yep.
back and forth with Ninja. He's making all kinds of money with his endorsements and everything else. I mean, you need to have an out of any contract.
Yep.
Good on Tfue, for blowing up, but also good on FaZe for actually locking him down. And, they're doing good business. They know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. I think
and
the
honestly, good on his lawyer for pulling the rug out from under him.
Oh, yeah.
And everything irrelevant. Because
Yeah.
that is goddamn brilliant.
yeah
Way to go on that.
he
So,
the thing that was interesting with FaZe, like the whole aspect behind it is like if you follow their growth, like this isn't a situation where FaZe made Tfue and Tfue made FaZe. Like Tfue started blowing up after he won a Friday night Fortnite competition. He started getting traction, and that's when FaZe stepped in and they started getting a little bit more involved. And if you follow the growth of FaZe, it's pretty similar to Tfue's growth. So I think they're both coexisting entities that have benefited each other. But yeah, if you got these shady practices going on, it's
FaZe
not.
was already a pretty big thing before Tfue, though.
They are like like as of now, like #1 esports organization by far because of their Call of Duty gameplay, their League of Legends gameplay. They've got PUBG. They've got a bunch of different competitive games where they're ranking in the globe, like in the international scene, very high. But it's interesting that when you have 100 viewers, 100 followers, 100 subscribers, whatever it is, that $2,000 a month contract looks pretty nice. But then when you outgrow it, like you guys said, Ninja bought out of his contract for $10,000. He signed with Luminosity 6 months before he started getting traction. He blew up, and then he's like, "Hey, here's my $10,000. I want out." And now he's literally pocketing every dime that he makes.
That's a day of streaming.
That's a day of straight. I mean, he sold his clothing line to the European Walmart. So the Ninja clothing line is now sold in the Walmart at Europe. Like the dude's loaded. So yeah, moral of these two stories: one, it'll be interesting. Two, this isn't going to be something that goes away quietly. A lot of these organizations have actually stopped recruiting. Their Twitter scene has gotten a lot because the World Cup for Fortnite's right around the corner. $10 million on the line. A lot of organizations are trying to find people to be competitive in that. A lot of these people have said we're no longer actively recruiting. So esports in general has kind of come back a little bit with who they're signing. In kind of regards to all this.
Several racist issues recently. Racist, sexist, and homophobic issues.
Yeah.
Recently in the news with all these esports organizations. So, I mean, they're obviously not picking people based on any sort of groundwork versus, other than their ability to game.
Yeah.
And
it's
inexperienced kids in there that, do really well at gaming, but they haven't really, dealt with socialization or, or dealing with, the public and the things that they said toxically during game matches.
Yeah.
These companies have to be very wary of.
Yep. And we're talking about, I mean, when you look at Rocket Mortgage, what they're doing for 100 Thieves, we're talking about multi-million-dollar investments. Yeah. So now, if somebody with 100 Thieves comes out and says a homophobic slur, now Rocket Mortgage is going to lose customers because they're like 49% owners of that team. So
right.
with Drake,
good for Nadeshot.
Nadeshot.
So former FaZe member.
Yep. Call of Duty star.
Went off and made 100 Thieves, and now that's like a booming esports team.
It's funny you mentioned that because Tfue is rumored to want out of his contract because he was also starting his own esports organization, similar to Nadeshot. He's going to use the Nade Shot model, as he called it, to form his own esports team. So,
Can we just stop saying nade shot?
Nade shot.
dude's one of the greatest Call of Duty players ever.
True.
So yeah, that's kind of in the news. That's what's going on. Moral of the story, kids: don't ever sign a 3-year contract. Make sure there's a buyout clause in it. Get a lawyer to read over it. I studied pre-law in college a little bit. I read his contract. I didn't understand his contract at all. A lot of like double speech and double negatives, and it's pretty crazy stuff. So
syntax is a thing, folks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and great.
Yep.
So what do you think this does to the esports overall corporate model?
So I think this is going to cause people to be a little more cautious on who they're signing. I would also see an industry standard. I've reached out to a couple of people that I know that belong to a couple teams, Guidance Gaming, the Pittsburgh Knights, people that I know within the industry. And they said like anything longer than 6 months is absolutely rare. So I could see more standardized, like Chuck Nasty, see him on Twitch a lot. We go back and forth. He's a Fortnite streamer for Guidance Gaming. He has a 3-month contract and he renews it every 3 months. So that's more average than what 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 year contracts are. So I think you're going to see more regulations in place to watch these type of contracts. But I also think it's going to make organizations more cautious. They may not take these young people under their wing anymore. They may be a little more cautious to see how established you are before that. Kind of segueing in a little bit to the Kotaku article. So Kotaku put out an article saying the esports scene is a giant balloon that's about ready to pop. So they had a lot of good sources, a lot of good material, and you look at these companies that are these teams that are spending $50 million to build. I mean, we talked about it in a podcast last year. They're building a PUBG facility in Las Vegas. Philadelphia now has a new esports team or esports center popping up. There isn't enough money to be had, and there is some validity to that. The Fortnite World Cup, $10 million. That's the largest tournament ever. That is the largest championship, whatever it is. Most of these tournaments, I think the last Hearthstone World Cup had like $65,000. So you look at a team that's like Tempo Storm, who's really big in the Hearthstone scene, and they sign 4, 5, 6 players to 1-year contracts at $2,000 a month. The grand prize of the Hearthstone Championship is $110,000, and the majority of that goes to the player. So we're not in an area right now where these tournaments are really winning enough money. So there isn't enough corporate support. And what you're seeing are these companies like Rocket Mortgage, like Drake, that are trying to invest in these teams early because they're looking at 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now. Where's the return on investment? People are rumoring the esports scene to be bigger than the NFL here in the next 10 years. Actually, the last League of Legends World Championship had twice the viewers of the Super Bowl across the globe.
That's impressive.
But a Super Bowl, the tickets are $750 a seat, and the stadium's sold out. League of Legends, you can watch it for free on Twitch. So there really isn't a lot of money there. Like, it's really hard. And even if they were selling it, we see it all the time with Twitch Rivals. Hey, let's watch Twitch Rivals. You can sub to that channel. Well, when I'm watching Twitch Rivals, I'm watching Shroud, or I'm watching Dr. Disrespect, or I'm watching Ninja. I'm not watching the Twitch Rivals channel. So it's even harder for those different organizations to make money off that. So it was a really good article. I think it was well written. It was very long. But it was just talking about how like we're too early. There isn't enough corporate backing in these big tournaments to justify the money that's being spent. And when you look at Rocket Mortgage, they just dropped 86 million into 100 Thieves. Drake just invested 10 million into 100 Thieves. All these people are dropping all this money. You'll talk about salaries, you're talking about houses, but the tournaments aren't there. Like the CSGO tournament was what, $250,000 World Championship, and that doesn't even put a dent in that investment that Mortgage just did.
I honestly don't think that's where the hook is on this.
No, it's
I don't think that exactly. That's exactly what it is.
How many 100 T hoodies are going to sell way more than prize winnings in a tournament
or seats at that fucking tournament? You know, you can, it's you're not going to charge $300 a seat.
A pop,
No, it's all in merchandising, and that's why they're doing this. Because I mean, the merchandise licensings are invaluable. I mean, that's That's a ton of money, and you can go crazy with that.
And the
You get somebody
royalties
that's-
on it, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
So Kotaku actually commented on that. The average esports fan spends roughly $7 a year supporting their team. The average pro sports fan spends roughly $700 supporting their team. When you look at jerseys and example, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. I live in Michigan, so I have to pay for NFL Sunday Ticket, which is $190 a month just to watch my team play every Sunday.
Really, that's
That's a
60
lot
days
of
for
money. Yeah, so it's like these people aren't investing in that. And
look at your target audience as well. 15-year-olds or grown
Yeah.
adults.
Yep.
Watching.
So because of all this,
Yeah,
Kotaku,
but you have earned these.
yeah, me or him.
That's
That's it?
Signed by Drake.
That's a $7 right there. So
It's my $7 for the year.
That's
man.
all of our $7.
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a very interesting read. I disagree with it. Just giving my 2 cents real quick. I'm like-minded to where you guys are. Esports, we've talked. I've talked about this before. Esports is new to America. We just in the last 3 years became relevant in the esports scene. The Pittsburgh Knights just took home the gold medal in the PUBG International Championship. You got Team Solo Mid that places pretty well in League of Legends, and that was just recently. America doesn't know how this works. They have no idea. When you look at the
Look at
international
South Korea.
scene, I was just going to say, when you look at South Korea, they're sponsored by Samsung. They're sponsored by LG, Whirlpool.
They
These
have multiple dedicated 24-hour channels to
Yes.
esports.
Yeah. So these companies know how to
in fairness,
invest.
Let me just interject here. In fairness, they don't have a type of sports league
An
that
NFL.
pulls like an NFL
NBA.
does. I mean, even in the World Cup stuff, I mean, it's not relevant enough to bring that type of income. There's only so much money.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you can say that we're going to be like South Korea one day, but I don't know that there's that much money to go around.
Well, so
And here, it's still considered a kids'
Mhm.
venue. I mean, this is not something that adults go do. Adults can spend $750, for example, on a seat at a Super Bowl game.
Right.
You know, that is an adult-driven market. You're talking about a more so kid-driven market,
And
in
a
a
non
place that has nothing else going on.
and a non-physical market as well. Like you can watch. The vast majority of people are going to tune in or stream an esports tournament as opposed to go to the esports arena and watch
Right.
it. Whereas same thing kind of with the NFL, but they have multi-billion-dollar stadiums now that people go and pay big money to go sit and watch the Patriots win another Super Bowl.
Right.
But they, I don't see that big of a draw, at least for the not foreseeable future, but for the next almost decade, I'm assuming you're not going to see the big rush to go watch an esports tournament.
So I have a couple counter arguments. So Overwatch League, they are now localizing similar to sports teams. So if you guys aren't familiar with how the Overwatch League works, I think there's 16 teams across the country. You got a team in Chicago, Philadelphia. I think the Florida team just won, actually. The Orlando team just won the Overwatch League. They are building stadiums, and their season tickets have sold out before the season even started. You also have, I don't have that information. I could look it up. It wasn't nowhere near $180 a seat per game, but it sold out pretty quick in Orlando. They're the world champions. And then you've got the Fortnite World Cup, which I believe is taking place in a football stadium, and those tickets were sold out within hours of them going live. So I think the want is there. I think when you look at the maturity level, I just got into it with Solid a little bit in Discord this week about this. The pro scene, everybody looks at these games and says, "Oh, it's a kids game." Using Fortnite for example, it's a kids game. It's a kids game. The pro scene is no kids. There are very few kids in the pro scene. You got 30-year-old Ninja. You've got 28-year-old. You got Dr. Lupo's in the pro scene. He's in his mid 30s. You got all these adults that are doing this. And these tickets that are being sold are to 18 years and older. So while, yes, there are a ton of kids watching, I feel like the pro scene is a lot of adults. And I think when you look at Korea, my counter argument to that would be they have soccer, they have baseball, they have hockey. They've got soccer is very big in the international world. It's soccer is our NFL. However, they have dedicated channels to League of Legends that bring in more viewers weekly than their national soccer team. So I think the reason I think this is a misfire on Kotaku, even though it's just an opinion piece, was because while esports is new to America, these companies that are investing in esports have been investing internationally for decades. Whirlpool, Samsung, LG, Apple, they all sponsor the top esports teams in South Korea that are just now getting into sponsoring American teams. They know what to look for. They've been doing it for 20 years. These aren't misinvestments. It's advertising. So that's my 2 cents on it. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I do think they need to be careful, similar to what we just talked about. Reason being is if Whirlpool sponsors Tempo Storm and Tempo Storm comes out,
N-bomb there.
drops an N bomb, or he comes out and I'm a Catholic priest to little kids, or whatever it is that comes out, Whirlpool's gonna be like, hey, we're gonna pull our funding, and then this team is gonna drop and they're gonna tank. So I think the teams need to protect themselves, but I also could see individuals pulling in these sponsorships as well. Adam, let's say you're really good at PUBG, and instead of you joining an organization, you play PUBG competitively. There's no need for you to go join a team other than the practice hours. You're still ranking top 5. As Samsung, I could save 80% and just offer you 1.5 million a year instead of offering a team 40 million a year.
They do that. Yeah.
Yep.
To me, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to know your opinion on this, but to me, it seems more of a model, not like the NFL, but more like NASCAR, where it's more of a support. I'm an advertising billboard for your company.
Yeah. But
I do a sport and I do it well. What do you think about it?
I do think it's more like NASCAR, less like the NFL. It's also interesting though, because if you're advertising a team that's never qualifying for anything, that advertisement's going to go. True. I'd be interested to see what these teams' ticket cards are. So in NASCAR, they say, hey, we want a 6-inch bumper sticker, and I suck as a race car driver, so I'm going to say, okay, $300,000. I'd be interesting to see what these teams are charging, because if it's half that or a quarter of that, that's a no-brainer. Ninja gets up there, qualifies for the World Cup. He's got a Samsung logo on his chest. He's in Samsung commercials. He's in Samsung this, Samsung that. That's a no-brainer. Oh, Ninja uses it. But again, individual. He's not part of an organization. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out over the next 5 to 10 years. I don't think the bubble's about to burst. I think if anything, it's about to get. You just had freaking Drake invest, $30 million into 100 Thieves? That was like 3 weeks ago.
Let's not set our business models on Drake if we can do that.
Right. But what I'm saying is if somebody has.
Next to Warren Buffett.
Yeah, next Warren Buffett. If somebody like him, though, can pull the trigger and understand, what that looks like and what the esports.
Drake's hopping on a hype train is what he's doing.
But you got The Rock, Will Smith invests in esports teams. You've got a lot of people.
Can we get some current actual artists that are not on the end of their careers? Can we do that?
At the end of their careers, they need to invest wisely.
Yeah, I don't see this as being anything. Yeah, Eminem's back in some action. So going into Poop Shizzle content, he is not here tonight. Unfortunately, Poop Shizzle has had some internet issues and he's going to save a friend's life down in Austin, Texas right now. That's not exactly true, but he has.
It's like that seemed dramatic.
It's fun to say. So we had some stuff about EA. Nobody gives a fuck about EA anymore after Anthem, but they have learned from Anthem. Apparently, let's all play the tiniest violin on Earth for EA.
Always me.
Yeah. Oh. But they've learned a lot. They said they did reaffirm its support for the game and developer BioWare for Anthem, so that's cool. But there's no content coming, so that's empty promises. They said that experience has led to realize that it needs to start handling large live service games differently. So that's cool.
They fixed the bug where Anthem was just straight up shutting people's systems down.
It's so bad. This is the satire of the experience has led it to realize that he start handling it differently. The CEO said it's not just an EA challenge, it's an industry-wide challenge. So get off our ass, I think is what that means.
Man, deflect. These guys are good.
Oh my god.
Wonder Woman bracelets.
Listen, this isn't us. Go ask Origin what's going on.
Yeah. They said that Asia Eastern markets have soft launches for online games. Multiple community tests, so they're reassuring that they're good. The Western approach, the drip feed approach, marketing, build hype, release, and all that. They had feelings on how that's good and bad. But, nobody really cares about what EA's doing now because they've burned us now several times with Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda, the Battlefield 1 and 5 failures that they're still trying to get out of, and then Anthem. We all know what they did there, and it's pretty bad.
Also, every Madden, every hockey game, every college game, every soccer game.
People eat those games up like crazy. FIFA
Microtransactions.
and Madden and all of those games, the NBA. I think they just need to stick to sports. We talked about this before, that they didn't need to stick to sports and just let everything else go. There's a build-a-ban loot boxes, guys. Pay to win, microtransactions, that sort of thing. Senator Josh Hawley, where is he from? I don't have that here, but he's introducing the bill, the Protecting Children from Abusive Games Act. I mean, I've seen this before in my lifetime with the Pokemon stuff. They were trying to get rid of the Pokemon because it was a cartoon that sold cards. So it looped your kids into gambling of its own sort. This keeps coming back around. You're going to see this over and over again, these microtransaction things. But as long as parents are willing to pay that, I think that's just what we're going to be doing. And,
fair play.
I think it's another attempt to shut down gaming by politicians that don't understand gaming. I mean, they tried it 5 years ago. First-person shooters, you should have to pay a tax for violence. I mean, they've backed gaming industry into a corner. Microtransactions are the way they survive, so they know if they can get this to go through, it's gonna cut out the throat of gaming.
Yeah,
it won't go through.
No, it will not. It will not. It'll just die again. You know what? But Belgium did ban it.
Yes.
Yeah, Belgium got successful in that. So
Europe also banned half of the YouTube content.
Well, that's also when they have the what's it called, the privacy data stuff that we have now. It's also based on the European model. I can't remember what it's called. It has an acronym. But anyway, that happened like February, I think, where everybody had to sign off, and you had to make sure that all your websites said that you agreed to giving away your data and all that stuff. So, I mean, it does have influence. I mean, other European countries do have influence on it, so it is a real thing. And I don't know that that's going to come here. I don't think that we'll be banning loot boxes. I think that probably the companies themselves are too powerful here to be litigated or punished in any kind of way like that.
Yeah, EA Sports is pocketing some lobbyist money right now.
No, I'm sure it is. All right, Ubisoft. Here's some fun news. Positives. They're doing really well.
Assassin's Creed 12.
Nobody wants that. We have the same game reskinned 100 times. Everybody loves it though. So 2018 was their strongest year ever. They went 2.27 billion in last year when everybody else was fucking failing. And we had all these woes about Activision, Activision Bungie issue. We had the EA issue, of course, with BioWare. What else happened last year? We had a couple other failings too, didn't we? Call of Duty tanked.
Battlefield.
Yeah. Battlefield. I think that was all Battle.net stuff has been having trouble.
Oh, but, Blizzard, yeah.
Yeah, the Blizzard stuff. But Ubisoft's doing well. Rainbow Six Siege, strangely enough, over $1 billion since launch in 2015. Their engagement numbers last year were 45 million players. That was a 40% increase in players last year. This is their third year of the season pass.
Rainbow Six has been popping off.
It's going crazy.
I still play that game. What they did was freaking genius. It's very similar to what Apex did. Kind of a side tangent, but that game sucked at launch. You could literally shoot somebody through a cement wall and get a headshot because you knew where they were. They kept it going. People that wanted to play could play it. And then they got all of the big streamers in beginning of last year and said, hey, we're going to give a week free Game Pass, and then it's $10 if you want to play it. And that just completely brought the whole entire game back. I still to this day, I bought the Rainbow Six Siege. I buy every season pass. I think I opened up about that a couple months ago. But
I've got it on Xbox and PC.
I opened it up and played it a couple days ago. It's a phenomenal game. The bug fixes are great. Yeah, so kudos.
They said that their biggest generational title was Far Cry 5.
Good game.
It's okay.
I never played it.
We'll talk about it later. It's okay.
It's the only Far Cry game I've ever played, so it was good for me.
That's a problem. We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it for you next week. Far Cry 3 is my favorite. But anyway, yeah, Division 2 console did not meet initial sales expectations, but PC is doing very well. Another fun thing that I'm really excited about, and I've been wanting to say this for a while, is that I think 100. Well, this was data from 3 days ago. I think 160 people have beaten the raid in Division.
How about that raid though? That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, 160 people on console have beaten the raid. I think when I looked at 3 days after launch, 36 total people. This is 8-man raid.
Yes,
36 total people had beaten it on PC.
And their approach to the raid though has been fantastic because everyone has been like they did the exact opposite of what Bungie has been doing. And people have been crying that this raid is too fucking hard. The power level scales too much, and their response is basically get good. And they have not touched the difficulty. They have not changed a damn thing. They said if 36 people are going to beat it, that's who's going to beat it. And
that is a classic World of Warcraft response. They release a raid 2 weeks later. No one's beat it. They're like, listen. Our robot simulations say you should beat the 60% of the time. Go F yourself. Keep trying, noob. Like, that's exactly what WoW does.
Bungie took the first Forge that was happening back in Season of the Forge, which was the first DLC after Forsaken. And it took them 24 hours to dumb down the difficulty because everyone complained too much.
Yeah.
With the Division... It's been weeks now that the raid's been out. What, 2 weeks now? I think the raid's been out, and they're saying you can do it. It's been done. Just do better. It's awesome. I love that. I love
best response.
It's end game content. Not everyone's going to be able to do it. Some people suck at games. Not going to be able to do it. Not everyone can get their hand held through everything in the game.
And realistically, 160 people is a lot of people to beat. Or 160 groups is a lot of groups to beat a raid.
And no, not groups. People.
Oh.
8-man raids, 160 people total.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so 20 teams.
Right.
I like it. Listen, stick to it. Listen, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. These games that are rewarding the casual player and the person who's trying hard is just breezing through these raids. It's what Destiny failed. That's why Anthem failed. That's why all these games are failing. I love it. Give me a game that punches me in the nuts and wants me to come back next week to try it again.
Yeah. Bungie is reforming that though, and I'll cover that later. But...
No, you can cover it right now because that's our segue.
Segue. So speaking of all the bitches that get their hand held, Season of the Opulence is coming out on June 4th. This coming Tuesday. Season of the Opulence is the last DLC of this major expansion. So after this, which wraps up, what did it say? End of August. After this, there will be a new big DLC that comes out, like Forsaken size DLC. So Season of the Opulence, the raid that's coming out, which I just had the name of it. It was, I'll find it later. But anyways, the new raid that's coming out, usually every raid that's come out with new expansions happens either 24, 48, or even up to a week after the DLC launches. So it gives people time to get their power level up, to get a group together, to just basically power up and get some gear. The new raid is dropping 6 hours after the new DLC drops. So you have 6 hours to level up as fast as you can to get into the new raid and do their thing. This whole approach was so that it doesn't punish anyone, but it also doesn't allow these super grinders to just blow past the first 8 hours of gameplay and go right into the raid and beat the raid. The power level. Oh, so yes, Crown of Sorrow was my next note. Then power level starts. The current cap for power is 700. The power level starts at 715 for the raid and scales from there. So I'm assuming it's going to end up around 730, 740 maybe, which is usually 10 below max light, which is going to be 750 now. So I would assume 740-ish would be the end light. So if you're going in at 700, you're going to have a bad time. And Bungie is actually disabling Last Wish and Scourge of the past raids up until the world's first raid completion has happened. So they're doing that so that people can't go in minute one of the new season, beat the original or the current 2 raids, get their powerful drops, and jump level up to power level.
27,
They basically want everyone to go into Crown of Sorrow at 700, level up in the raid, and beat the raid on pure mechanics, not just brute forcing their way through. So I think that's great. That's the first time. That's the first time I've seen Bungie actually present a challenge and enforce the challenge and say we're not releasing the reigns until some team, it'll probably be like a Redeem, or it will be some bigger team that beats the raid, and then everybody's going to be able to kind of filter in after that. But it's just preventing any of these kind of power levelers that, if they're going in at 720, 730, obviously they're going to have a leg up on the competition because they're just such a higher up power level. So I think that's great. Prevents the power leveling, prevents the power leveling methods. Actually, all of the power leveling methods, which would be like your powerful engrams and your spider bounties and all that, will be capped at 700. They will not be boosted past the 700 cap until the raid has been beaten. So there, you're going to be blowing into the power level, into the raid, over leveled. Someone's going to have to beat that raid first with pure skill before anyone else can go in and try and brute force it.
And so, what do you think is going to happen after after someone beats the raid? Are they just going to open up the other raids and let everybody just power level and go crazy?
Yeah.
So somebody will be 740.
Yep.
Week.
So that's how it always is. But
yeah, Bungie's flippant integrity.
I see the point of it. I see their integrity of world's first has always gone to the streamers and the professional gamers that can sit there. And there's actually a guide that I saw that I'll try and find. Maybe we can post on Twitter. Someone went through and laid out perfectly what bounties to complete but not turn in, what bounties to complete to a certain percentage and not turn in, so that minute 1, day 1, you can do one activity, jump up a certain power level, go to your next character, jump up the next power level, go on your raid character, and jump up as high as possible to the 1 XP of max XP that you can get before you go into the raid. So it's these kind of guides and everything that Bungie says too much. We made this.
I agree. Reddit's a toxic place, and
Bungie makes these raids to test people's skills. It's an end game content. It's not a how much time can you put into this game the first day content.
Well, you've kind of moved me a little bit. I feel like now I kind of understand a little bit more. I didn't realize that was the thing, because the data mining and everything else. If you've got that mapped out to exactly what to do, and people are reading that, then you've underwritten the game.
Yep.
You've come in and just hacked it, basically.
Pretty much. Like I said, it tells you to the exact percentage. Get your blind well to 67%, because then you can do 1 round of blind well that puts you up to this tier, which then catapults you to the next tier, which allows you to finish this one and blah blah blah. So I'm all about Bungie doing this. I think they should handicap everyone until that first, because world's first is a big thing. I mean, that's something no one can take away from you. It's something that ththey get an emblem for it. Yeah, they had a raid belt that you got for Scourge of the Past, and all other previous ones, like a WCW World Championship belt that they got for world's first clears. And also what it does is it takes these smaller teams and smaller raid groups in terms of popularity, but skill level still very high, and it allows them to go into a raid and actually be competitive in a world's first, because not everyone can take the first day off of work in power level, the first week off work in power level, whereas these professional streamers and these professional gamers, that's what they do, and that's their job, and good for them for having a career with that. But normal people who might be great at the game also get punished for not being able to take time off work to power level. So that is the new raid. I'm super excited about it. I actually haven't been excited about anything in Destiny for quite a while. This is the first time I've actually felt a little twitch down below. Yeah, so that's coming out on June 4th. There is a new game mode called Menagerie coming out, which is basically what I saw was that it's a mix of like a escalation protocol and blind well. So it's an EP style event where it's a different boss every week. Each week that's getting launched, there's going to be a new boss introduced, and it's going to be a wave based event, but it's just in an enclosed space like an arena. So it'd be pretty cool. It's gonna be an end game event there. Like I said, new bosses every week. June 11th, which would be the week after that, the following Tuesday, the Truth rocket launcher, which was a D1 exotic, which was a overpowered tracking PvP rocket launcher. Awesome rocket launcher. Got nerfed, but it was good. That's coming back. It's going to be an exotic quest. It's coming out on the 11th. After that, June 26th, which would be 2 weeks after that, the heroic version of the Menagerie event comes out.
That's 750.
That would be probably 7 and change, 740, 750. Usually heroics, like I said, about 10 below.
Heroics 10 below?
Heroic is usually 10 below max power.
So how do you get max?
Max would be, the recommended power would be 740, but it would reward up to
so
750.
The rewards would be 750.
Yeah, it'd be max light. After that, on July 2nd, which is my birthday, by the way.
It's my birthday.
The Lumina exotic hand cannon, which is the fifth exotic hand cannon in the past 3 years that have been launched, is being released. I have no info on what it will do, what it's going to be.
Ace of Spades. We got
Spades. Malfeasance. We have
Oxford, Thorn.
Yep.
And now, what's it
this
called?
one? Lumina.
Is this
Lumina.
the Rose?
No, it is not Rose. So Rose being the counterpart to Thorn, Dregden Yor's nemesis. So it's, from what I saw, it actually looks almost like a Tex Mechanica, like that kind of last word kind of flavor to it. But I have no info on it. I'll keep you updated. We have until the July 2nd when that's coming out, so I'm sure I'll have some more info by then. It's an exotic hand cannon. So one of the actual, what people have been kind of gushing over, and one of our friends, Don of Entropy, might like this. One of the legendary hand cannons that comes from the new raid is the exact model of Aya's Luna, which was a hand cannon in D1. It's just all the Season of Opulence raid gear is all ornate, kind of like the Leviathan, gold and purple and nice. And basically take a Aya's Luna and bedazzle it with gold and purple, and that's what that hand cannon is. So we could end up with a cool Aya's Luna copycat. You see a lot. That'd be super popular. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be for perks. There's a ton of new perks coming out as well. So it'd be interesting to see what's coming out with that. And then last thing is July 9th, which is the following week, is the Moments of Triumph. So every end of the year, every summer, end of summer, Destiny and Bungie put out the Moments of Triumph, which that allows you to do a victory lap on what you have done throughout the year. You get different armor sets, and it allows you to show off to your friends how much you've completed in the year. So,
and you buy a shirt.
You can buy a shirt. You're rewarded with spending money. So that's fun. And so that's Season of Opulence. That's the last season for the big expansion here for Forsaken. Should be pretty interesting. This is the one Bungie codenamed it Penumbra. This was the one that was totally there was no preview for it. There was nothing leaked. And now they just released all this information, and surprise, this is what you have. So this is their last hurrah for the season. Pinnacle weapons were released, the information on them. The pinnacle weapons being the highest tier weapon you can get for PvE, PvP, and Gambit. The PvP reward this season is actually a sniper rifle. That's been a big want for people throughout the PvP community. They wanted a top tier sniper rifle. People are not happy about the perk that was released for it. We don't have exacts on it. But what Bungie said in their little quibbit was that missed shots return to the magazine after a short delay. So what that means is basically a PvP sniper rifle with infinite ammo.
It's Icebreaker.
It's Icebreaker that it could be a little faster ammo regeneration. We don't know the exact, so I said I'm not going to get super spun up about it because it could be a super slow delay. Who knows? But it sounds like an interesting gun. What
are people mad about that?
They are, because they're saying big PvP guys and gals are saying they're not happy about it because rewarding low skill tier. The whole point of a sniper is not to miss a shot. They're saying what they would rather see is a perk on that would reward skills such as in-air accuracy or precision reload speed, blah, blah, blah. something that actually rewards you being a skilled sniper, not being a shit sniper and giving you ammo back.
They've had that.
So,
They've had that before, though, didn't they? Where wasn't there a sniper in Destiny 1 that
Mulligan.
every time you hit a headshot, you got like some sort of perk or some sort of bonus for it?
Oh, triple tap, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that on every gun.
That's triple tap is a pretty common one, but this is if you miss a shot, that shot's coming back to your magazine.
Yeah,
it's like an improved,
that,
it's like an improved mulligan, which is dumb.
They should do like a no aiming sort of thing, or an air,
or a hip fire accuracy or something.
Yeah, hip fire.
You know, I want to see you do a 360 no scope.
Yeah.
The Doritos fall out of the sky or something. Who knows? So that's the sniper rifle. That's the PvP pinnacle reward. The Vanguard pinnacle, so PvE pinnacle reward, is a grenade launcher. Seems pretty interesting. The note on that said orbs of light actually increase damage and blast radius. So we don't know if there's a cap to that or if you can get the most you can poop out for orbs of light are 7. So if you collect 7 orbs of light, does it turn into a little mini nuke that you can shoot? Who knows? Be pretty
that would
interesting.
be breaking for raids, I would think.
Oh, it'd be crazy. I'm sure there's got to be some kind of consumes all the ammo in the drum or something. It's a drum style grenade launcher, so who knows? Okay. Interested to see how that one fleshes out to be. And then the last one that we know of is the Gambit pinnacle weapon, which is a bow. And the bow perk is what people are saying the sniper perk should be. And the bow perk, if you get a hip fire precision shot, it says shot, it doesn't even say kill, it says shot. Hip fire precision shots greatly increase draw speed. So you're eventually just going to Legolas that thing around as long as you're hip firing and getting precision hits or shots.
Just running around, just no scoping with it.
Oh yeah, and that's what people are saying. They would love to see on the sniper is, you know, reward me for hip firing and sniping some dude. Yeah. Whereas, you know, this bow is gonna be pretty cool. I think it might be interesting, but I'm not a big fan of bows, especially for Gambit. Not fun.
Come on.
So that's kind of my thoughts on Destiny right now. I'm pretty excited for the raid. Like I said, I haven't been excited about a Destiny thing in quite a while. Will it get me back into Destiny? Maybe. I completely missed the season of the Drifter. Can't say I'm
not
upset. I'm not upset about it. I did not even play a single second. Nope.
Oh my god.
Yep. I missed all of it. Partly due to my Xbox dying, partly due to lack of interest. But unfortunately, Borderlands 3 is around the corner. And
last month was a great time for you to get on PC and just like level up.
I could have been 700 by now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But like I said, Borderlands 3 is coming out around the corner. Does segue me into my next topic, which is Borderlands 3. And we have reports, according to PlayStation Lifestyle, which is a pretty prominent PlayStation and gaming article. Gearbox will soon be releasing a DLC aimed at bridging the gap between Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3. The name of that DLC is going to be Commander Lilith and the Fight for Sanctuary. So Lilith being the Siren in the game from BL1. She's going to, in Borderlands 2, spoiler alert, Roland, who is one of the other main characters, he dies. He's commander of the Crimson Raiders, who is going against Hyperion and Jack, Handsome Jack, and he dies. Lilith takes over the Crimson Raiders, and this DLC is the first DLC we've had for BL2 in a long time, years we're talking, and it is meant to be a bridge between BL2 and BL3. Borderlands 2 just got the new up-res version of Borderlands 2, so it'll be all pretty for us, and it'll just give the players that have had a stale moment between Borderlands 2 a little bit of a kind of segue between the two games. So I think it's going to be awesome. I will definitely be getting that. What I see for notes from PlayStation Lifestyle, which we'll see if is actually accurate, they are saying the notes will be announced and released during E3, which is June 11th to 13th. So very soon we will be getting more information about this DLC, when it will be released, what it will entail, and very interested to see what Gearbox brings to E3 for any kind of more previews or anything. So Borderlands 3.
We missed a little bit about Randy Pitchford losing his mind.
Oh, I so wanted to talk about that. Now, Randy Pitchford, CEO, Gearbox, nice guy-ish. A couple people said they've been punched by him or whatever, pushed around. Randy Pitchford has a hard time handling Twitter trolls, and he had a article written about the whole microtransaction thing. When Borderlands 3 was announced, one of their big selling points was zero microtransactions. To me, zero microtransactions in the game. Don't worry about that. Just going to pay for DLC if you want to do that. But then right after that, they said you can still buy skins. You can still buy heads for the game, which literally is a microtransaction. It's cosmetic, but it's still a microtransaction. You still have to pay to get that item in the game. I believe it was GameSpot wrote an article about this and saying, we were literally just lied to from Gearbox about this microtransaction thing. And Randy Pitchford went on Twitter and blew up about it, saying how hurt he was and how this is such a lie and this and that, and kind of just exploded. Another instance was the voice actor for Claptrap, which is one of the characters, was the former CEO of Gearbox. He did the first game completely unpaid. He did the voice of Claptrap, was not paid a single penny for it. To do the voice for Borderlands 3, he requested compensation. He wanted some money for it. And basically Randy Pitchford said, no, I'm not going to pay you for this. And so they had a big falling out, and I don't know the specifics of it, but you gotta pay your actors apparently. And so there's a big falling out there, and we'll see. It looks like, whoever's steering the ship over at Gearbox might be having a little bit of a hard time, but I'm still super excited for the game. I think it's gonna be awesome.
Even with different voice actor.
Yeah, different voice actor. We got over Dinklebot and Peter North there, but we'll get over it with Claptrap as well. So the special effects designers can make anybody sound like anybody anyway, so I'm not too worried. So that's it. Yeah, no, that's the Borderlands 3 coverage. That's the Destiny coverage. I do want to delve into D&D real quick, as we do every week. I have two of you here to answer today. Our last question was involving pushing or dragging grappled creatures. Is that subject to carrying capacity rules? The answer to that is yes, it certainly does. Even though you can grapple a Tarrasque, does not necessarily mean you can hoist it on top of your shoulder and carry it around.
I think my answer was yes, that it does, right?
We all answered yes.
Everybody answered yes. So yeah, all of you were correct. That's kind of a no-brainer. That was an easy, but it was still on the site I was on. It was still there were some varying answers. So another question I wanted to ask for this week, which is very relevant to our current campaign, is that can a barbarian keep his rage going by inflicting self-damage? Now, my character in Adam's campaign does in fact do that. He's a barbarian who can whip himself with his magic weapon.
He's a religious zealot, by the way.
Yes, he is a barbarian zealot. He can self-damage to continue his rage. The question is that allowable in the core D&D rules?
I can't answer this one because I know the answer.
So I'm the one answering.
It's up to you, man. You are the voice of everyone right now. Yes or no? Is that acceptable for a barbarian?
Should I channel my inner poop chisel? So, couple questions. No, I'm just kidding.
What the hell's a barbarian?
How do you spell barbarian?
Yeah.
So I would say I've never played a barbarian, so this is actually going to be a legitimate guess.
Yep.
I would say no, that it cannot be self-induced. Yeah.
Let's hear your reasoning.
I don't really have one. I just feel like that's the
Okay.
right answer. I mean, I
So
never.
rage-
I don't know
rage
how
itself-
rage works. I know.
Yeah.
I know it's limited
tell
per. Okay.
Rage itself. What you have to do as a barbarian, you go into a rage. You can enter a rage state. You need to either deal damage or take damage to keep that rage going. If you miss your attack, if you are not attacked, if you receive no damage or deal no damage, that rage goes away. It subsides.
Now, rage has a lot of perks to it.
Rage has a lot of perks to it: extra damage, extra resistances, powerful ability that the barbarian class is pretty much built around. And so the question here is, can that barbarian, if he didn't receive damage from an enemy, self-damage to keep that rage going?
So, based on your definition of rage, I would change it to yes.
Okay.
If I want to sucker punch myself in the scrotum because nobody attacked me and take 2 bludgeoning damage, then yes, I would still be in rage.
It's more than 2 damage, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Well, you're whipping yourself.
The hamster ball encounter. Adam found the one way to negate my every ability as a barbarian on encounter, and it was the most painful session I've ever had in D&D.
That would see that. So in defense of myself, with that, not to get off on the metagame thing, but in defense of myself, I'd been out for a few weeks with that one, so like 3 weeks. So I want to make something just like really challenging for everybody to figure out what to do, and I really created a big fuck hole for everybody to get wrecked in, and they got through it. Strangely enough, but,
we did it.
There were really only a couple ways out of that situation.
Yeah,
and they ended up doing it, but King had no part in it.
I had zero input in that. I was slowed. My movement was halved. My damage was totally null and void. It was just a terrible time. I was completely useless that whole encounter. So
it was one of my most clever encounters that I've ever done, and one of the most deadly that I've ever done. But they made it somehow.
Yep.
Yeah, it was fun.
So that's
I have
it,
a
guys.
question for you as a DM. Anything about Saltmarsh?
Yeah, I wanted to cover that just for a second. It's brief. Ghost of Saltmarsh came out. It's new material from Coast. It's a new adventure that takes you on the high seas. You're going to be battling water elementals, merfolk, and all kinds of other mer creatures. It's a whole new campaign setting. It's a one-shot that you can do. As of right now, Amazon, probably the best place to buy it. You get it half price. Walmart is also offering it at half price right now. A lot of D&D material on Amazon and Walmart is up to 70% off. So the D&D core set, the rule sets, the DM guide, the monster manual, all that stuff. Go check it out right now. If you're ever interested in looking at D&D and getting into it, now's a great time because it's literally at least half price, maybe sometimes more. So dig into the physical material. Most of it's online anyways, but actually to have that real book in your hands, it's so nice to just have and nerd out on. And like I said, if you want to get into D&D, now's a good time in terms of monetary interest. So it's always a good time to get into because of funsies.
And now we're going to Hell, I believe, Baldur's Gate sort of stuff, right?
Yes. So that yep, that's I believe the next expansion that's coming out. I'm not super versed on that right now. I'd have to look into it, but
from what I read, that we're going to Eberron now, and they're using sort of Baldur's Gate reference and getting us into Hell for the first time, like their own D&D's version of Hell.
Yep.
Which should be interesting. I mean, we have demons and stuff like that, and Xanthard and the Monster Manual, but there's really not been any way to incorporate that stuff very well.
Right. It's been a lot of demons have come up to the planar realms, but we have never really delved down into the 9 hells and different layers, and it's gonna be pretty cool to go in and see what's down there.
Yeah, my first campaign had a lot of that in, where we wanted to eventually go down into that. So it's definitely touching on a need for a lot of the community. Mm-hmm. My question is, I have something as if both of you were, I know King, you are a DM, and Sectator, if you wanted to be one. It's just kind of a question just to bat around about poison damage and such like that in D&D. There's a lot of drinking that goes on in the pubs and such like that. Is there some point that you would like incorporate alcohol poisoning into your game?
Yes. Yes. So there's a couple features that I would do. There's actually a way of for the monk. I think that's
lost you there on your audio.
Oh, sorry. There's a way of the drunken master for the monk. There's a complete subclass built around that. You actually have to be inebriated to do some of your abilities, which is a great thing to do. I think Mojo actually dug into that in your campaign.
He was a barbarian, but
but he had a drinking problem, and he got a lot of benefits from that. And so, don't drink and drive, kids. But no, I think it'd be interesting, and I don't see a lot of it. And you actually touched on this in your campaign, but like a substance abuse, like with the spice that we had in our campaign, um, could my character have a need for alcohol, a need for a illicit substance, and if he doesn't get it, could he take damage from that? Could he roll advantage? I'm totally for it. Anything outside of the normal, I go in, I attack, I ready in action for the next turn. Cool. I'd rather see, well, my character hasn't had a drink for 2 days, so he's going to roll for disadvantage now, but then they find a keg somewhere and now he's at full advantage. And so I'd love to see anything to flesh out more kind of RP material and more flavor to the campaign, make it more real.
Yeah, I think that makes it fun. With our campaign with the spice, a Sectator got addicted to spice. The spice would heal you 100%, but every other healing would drop
Right.
every time you took the spice. What was the max? 50%? I think that.
Yeah, it was 75 and then 50.
Well, it was an initial 15% decrease off regular healing, and then every time you use a spice, it increased by 5%.
Yeah. But the spice would always heal you to 100%.
Yeah,
you're completely addicted to it.
But every time you use
every
it,
other healing, yeah.
Yep.
Like good berries or whatever would reduce you. In our first campaign, Mojo's axe for his barbarian, he would spill blood with it, and every time he would spill blood with it, it would fill a container at the bottom of the hilt.
Ferment.
That would fill with blood and then ferment into an alcohol. If he took that, he could hit normally. Like the first couple times that he hit, first couple rounds that he had damage, he would have advantage on hits, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, it just came regular damage, and if he didn't imbibe that fluid before fighting, he had disadvantage on all hits.
Yep.
Yeah, so it sort of pulled the addiction thing in there. That's fun sort of stuff you can do. So.
I think if I was DMing, it would vary a little bit. The intimacy of a small group allows you more creativity behind that. So like, we were playing with a group of we're playing with a group of 8 or 9, 10 people. That's ridiculous. Like keeping track of, all right, did King have alcohol last week? Did Sectator use a spice? Did this person do this? That's a lot. I've only ever ran with the DM and 3 or 4 people. So the creativity of the DM was outstanding, and I think the way that I enjoy enveloping into a fantasy world is everything. So I would 100% alcohol abuse, alcohol, disease, whatever that is, I would 100% do that. But again, if I was DMing a group of 10 people, we were doing bare bones, base minimum. Let's get it done, because we did one fight and it took 2.5 hours. So
easy. Yeah, and that's the problem when you get a bigger group like that. So that's why Discord was basically for the role play. And our sessions were just fighting. Because I can't sit there and let somebody tell their backstory for an hour and a half while we're all sitting here at 2:00 in the morning just waiting for you to shut the fuck up. There are just too many people to be talking at one time. Like that would be just a shit show. So that was why that was all streamlined. It makes it tougher, yeah. Definitely makes it tougher with more people. But I've not done a small group. I need to look into that.
All of our campaigns have been at least like 6, 7 people.
6, 7 people, yeah.
I'd love to do like a 3-person campaign.
Well, let's do it. I'm ready. Just
like some real heavy shit, like heavier on the rules, but also heavier on.
I think that's something we need to do. Just experience. I'm ready. I'm ready for that. I'm over this big group stuff.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I would say the only session I've ever DM'd was a one-shot campaign. It was I can't remember the name of it, Mine something. Basically, it was a one that they did at Comic-Con. They made a specific one for Comic-Con, and that's the one that I DM'd. And it was like 3 people. It was so much fun. You got to make it your own. Like it was a bare bones campaign. There was an end game. There was like 20 different halls that could go down. 18 of them led to death. There were clues along the way. One dude died instantly because he walked inside a porta pot. Like literally, the first room's a porta potty before you enter the cave. He walks in there, and if you take a seat, he gets eaten by a worm. So like the first guy died before he even rolled the first roll of combat. So it was a freaking blast, and it's a lot of fun.
The guy that got eaten by the worm.
I made him
having the most fun.
I let him re-roll a new character real quick, but he died immediately.
Yeah, another big problem for the DM and the big campaigns like that, or big player bases, that you have to. You have to come up with so many options, space encounter and whatever everybody's going to do. I want to seduce the bad guy. Okay. All right. So now we got another encounter coming up.
Right.
I planned for 6 more just in case somebody wants to roll.
And then you give one person a magic item. You also create 7 magic items because then everybody gets pissy they didn't get a magic item.
Like my monk. No, I'm just kidding.
I just created 7 times the work that I was going to do.
Yeah, your monk's been there for 2 fucking sessions. Calm down.
Let me attack 20 times for 4 damage.
All right, so that's metagame, guys. I'm glad everybody came by for Spawn Camp Council. We do our metagame podcast bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. We missed last week because things just kind of fell apart. But we'll be back again in 2 weeks for our E3
wrap up
expo.
Coverage
wrap up. So we'll be right during E3. We'll be here for I think it starts on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So we right. 1.5 days, 2 days into it when we do our podcast. So it should be a lot of interesting content coming out. I don't know if any of the big makers will be done by then. So we may need to do a wrap up on the next.
Microsoft is going on the 11th, which is going to be like the new Xbox is going to be announced, and so we'll have some stuff going on.
Cool. Yeah,
and them and PlayStation having fun on the corner.
I know, they're so much fun now.
Well, you mean them and Nintendo? Microsoft and Nintendo have been having all the fun.
Well, now Sony wants in.
But the Nintendo told Sony how hung Microsoft was, and now they want to get involved.
And now Sony's like, well, yeah.
And Sega's sitting in the corner drooling on its chest.
And PC is above all, just going.
Good job, guys. All right, that's it tonight, gents. Good job. Where can we find you in real life, Mr. Sectator?
Yeah, so everything Sectator Gaming, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. I'll actually be streaming for the first time in a month on Monday.
What the fuck?
I know, right? Back over on Twitch. So 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not sure what we're going to play yet. I've been talking to Wood Liggerty about jumping back into some PUBG. He said it's finally.
Oh my god, if you do that, I want to go.
Yeah, he said it's finally at a state that's actually, they've got the cheaters gone. They've got the server stabilized. So I might be playing with him. Yeah, for sure. So 9 p.m. Twitch.tv/Sectator Gaming.
Very nice. King Dolls, where you at?
You find me Twitch, Twitter, Discord, everything. King Does One.
King Does One. Very good. All right, and I am Adam212. That's ADAM, the number 2 WELVE. You can find me on Xbox, on Steam, just pretty much anywhere. Just type that in, you'll find me. Good job tonight, guys. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for all your great content. Fantastic tonight. That concludes our cast. Thank you for everybody coming by and listening and watching. Really appreciate you guys, and really just do it for the fans. And I'm glad all you guys came out tonight. All right, that concludes our cast. Check us out in 2 weeks for the E3 wrap-up, or integrated wrap-up as it goes along. Hopefully we'll be able to do another quick podcast after that, just sort of like, talk about some stuff that's happened. So until then, remember, logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Good night, everyone.